All
All
This is the housekeeping awesome Jeff.
Welcome to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss, and man, it's a party. It is our 3-year show. This is crazy. How's everyone doing? How are you doing, insiders? What's up, Alex? Man, how you feeling?
Feeling all right, man. I'm a little bit. You know what? Here's a funny thing. I didn't tell you this.
Uh-oh.
If insiders, if you can't tell, Jeff and I took total opposites as to how
Yes.
we were going to celebrate this show. Jeff is the business in the front, and I am the party in the back.
That makes sense, though, right?
So together, we are a complete mullet.
Oh,
No, man, it's cool. You know what's funny? I remember I told you, Lindsay and I got to get another car
yeah.
because I had that big car accident. So you know what I just realized? I was over here like, man, what's up with my butt? Right? Nothing's wrong. Dude, when I had that car accident,
Uh-huh.
because martial artists have had this a number of times, so they just kind of, when they feel it, they know what it is. I've fractured the bottom of my foot. You've done that before, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
When you compete on concrete floors, like you're just like, oh, I've had this before, right? So I'm like, oh damn, I gotta get an X-ray, make sure it didn't move. So I don't have a walking boot, right? So I'm like, crap, you need one. You can't just walk around with like soft sole shoes.
Right.
So I don't have a walking boot. So instead, that's what I'm using when I'm like at home. I don't do this at work, but I got this big ass snow boot. All right. I'm just walking around with big snow boot in middle of August.
Oh my God.
It's for real, man.
That's
But
awesome.
you know what it's like. Like if you got a
Yeah.
fractured bottom of your foot, like you can't mess around with that. Like you're gonna have to go to
No.
surgery, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be messed up. So you
Anything
gotta
with
take
the
care.
foot is awful, man. That
It takes forever.
your big toe is one of the worst. You gotta wear that
Oh,
stupid
yeah.
like fluffy cushion shoe, whatever. You look ridiculous.
But we
Yeah.
got our new car now. And
Well,
I'm
that's
telling
good,
you,
man.
it's just
That's
like
good.
I can't believe it. When like, the days of buying a car, like how much is it? How many miles are on it? What year is it? They're done. Those days are over.
You're
There's
just
so
like,
many
hey,
boxes we gotta check. Does it have third row seating?
right.
Does it have leather seats? Leather seats? What? Right? But then you're like, dude, my kids destroy cars. Like I just had them, detail the car, my car, right? And that's not cheap, right? And then
No.
like, does it have power seats? Yeah, everything's got power seats. Does it have a moonroof? A moonroof? What? Right? Does it have all sorts of things? So we got this QX60. It's an Infinity, right?
Mhm.
So now I gotta have a luxury car. Well, what comes wrong with that is it's a luxury SUV. Excuse me, right? What comes along with that is premium gas.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that until I went home, and I'm like, crap, this sucks. I tried so hard to like give me like the Ford Explorer with like the ultimate package, and those are like way more expensive, but whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. See, we're doing the opposite. We've been trying to find some type of like old car for the 17-year-old to get, as it's like, all right. And so
man.
that's even worse.
What was your first car?
Mine was a Chevy Cavalier, Yeah, like a 1993, and
And they go forever, man.
it went forever. It was great.
In 1999, that's when I got my first car. I was 18, right? My dad didn't even let me get my driver's license until I was 18. Promise that's the truth. All right. He did not let me get my driver's license. All right. And this was his like mentality behind it. I was like, Dad, can I get my permit? And he goes, why do you need a permit? And I was like, because I want to learn how to drive a car. And he goes, well, if you have a permit, that means I got to be in the car, right? I'm like, well, yeah, that's how it works. He goes, so if I'm in the car, I might as well be driving the car. So why do you need a permit? I'm like, Dad, that's not funny. And he walked out of the room, and then he never wanted to talk about it again until I was 18. So anyway, so I got it in 1999. I got it 1982 Plymouth Reliant.
All right.
Now these are K cars. It has school bus seats. They were rubber seats, right? And it had an AM tuner knob radio. That's all it had. But what was weird about these K cars is they had 2 catalytic converters in these tiny little cars, right? Like Escalade would have 2 catalytic converters, right? Like, why do you need this in this car? So the thing kept backfiring. So my dad's like, I know what you got to do. You got to cut one of those things out. Now, I don't know anything about cars then. So I'm like, all right, whatever you say. So we cut one of them out. We run a straight pipe back. Now, anybody who knows anything about cars knows that is now going to be the loudest vehicle on the road. No doubts about it. So I had the smallest, loudest vehicle in the world.
Oh, man.
Get your boy that one.
Wow. All right. So this is what a way to kick off our 3-year show. Lots of car stories.
I suppose.
Man, so
5 minutes of what the heck was that?
Again, lots going on with VFT. Thank you so much for the sponsorship and being a part of just growing sport martial arts over these years. We'll probably get back to it depending on how we go to talk about them adding the female division, the challenge, which is going to be really cool. But today, we want to celebrate with some of our insiders. So we have about 6 that said they wanted to be on and
so cool.
and add some topics and stuff, and for us to discuss with us. So we're gonna have a blast, all right? And guys that are watching, put in the comments, let us know you're here, all right? Thanks, Mom. Thanks for the congrats. Thanks for all the support. My dad actually said he likes the show. That's kind of funny. So, well, he watches.
My wife admitted, she goes, when I told her, I was like, oh yeah, babe, tonight's 3-year anniversary. She goes, wow, it's 3 years. I should probably listen to a show. I'm like, yeah, maybe you should.
Yeah. My lady said the same thing.
But then I was like, no, I'm just kidding. Like, you guys.
All right, so we're gonna have on
the kids to bed.
All right, so first guest we have on is a good friend of mine from years ago. Competed on the NBL together, Brett Shumway. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
We're doing great.
Good.
We're doing great. Thanks for all the support, man. Thanks for watching and listening.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Now, Brett, you actually watch usually on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I usually watch on YouTube.
Okay, all right, yeah, because
I gave up Facebook a couple years ago. So
yeah.
Are you a YouTube guy? Do you do a lot of stuff on YouTube?
I do actually. I watch a lot of. I watch a lot of not shows, but I watch a lot of clips and stuff. And I definitely watch a lot of fights and forums on YouTube. I mean, that's when people can't get out to tournaments. That's a great addition to our sport.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Definitely.
It really is.
All right. So what was your topic that we wanted to kind of just discuss?
Okay. So I know you asked for questions. It's not really a question
Fine. Yeah.
I sold it to you as the biggest pipe dream in sport karate. We've listened to your show. You talked about, how other organizations are doing great things. WKF has their stuff together. AAU's got it together. The one thing that we don't have in sport karate is unified rules. And
say it again for the people in the back.
That is the biggest other than organization, we could talk about this for years, but the biggest thing that sets other organizations apart from ours is going in what the rules are. You don't have to show up and get the rule of the day.
Right.
Traveling from state to state for fighters is growing a point today. Is it not a point? Or this that's a game changer. So
oh God, those years.
So Brett, is interesting because I didn't know you were gonna bring this up, and I was thinking about that, and I go, you know what? If you dial it back to when karate tournaments were really a thing, that probably had the simplest rules.
Thanks, Alex.
Right? Simplest rules, right? First to 3 points, right? No gear, right? Which is whatever, right?
Yeah.
Not advocating for no gear, by the way, anybody. I'm not advocating for that, right? I would take my daughter out of karate. Right? Well, no, I wouldn't. I would just have her do it with gear. But so 3 points, that's it. And everything was won, and it was pretty simple. I think there was just one judge too. And so as crazy as that sounds, Jeff came up with that idea. In year one, we should just have one judge. And I laughed him out. Maybe he
Hey,
was right. I don't know.
Even if you look at forms back in the day, there was one division.
Form.
Who's the
Yep.
best? Who's the best competitor? It's
Yep.
it's really that simple. And if you have martial artists who knows what they're looking at, it doesn't matter if it's Korean or Kempo or Japanese or creative. What's the best performance? What they presented, and that's the winner. It really should be. I would like it to be that simple. It's never going to be, but you know.
Right. So,
Well-
so I think the issue with the unified rules is inherent in what we are as, I mean, you know, just we're involved in martial arts. Everyone creates their own style every 5 minutes, you know? So if that's going to happen, then we have each of those styles creating their own individual separate league. So it's very, very difficult. You know, it's very hard. Like we've had to create it that, okay, we can't even say sport karate, because technically sport karate is WKF, you know, as well. So that's sport karate. And
That's
then
crazy.
we would be like sport martial arts, really. That's why some people kind of say that, or just the open circuit is what I've heard most people call it, right?
And that's
The
probably
open
the
circuit.
truest form.
Right.
What are we? What is this weird,
Right.
talented thing that we are?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we don't even, as right now, we don't have like any kind of
Identity?
solution for that, except for the leagues that are involved right now to actually get their stuff together first. You know,
Right.
And like I kind of just talking with you about a little bit, Jeff. You know,
Yeah.
I just kind of look at it like, you know, I grew up on the NBL, and I did my first NBL tournament, and it was a regional in like '95.
Right.
And we went to a local tournament. We grabbed there was a rule book that we got for free that was sitting on a table. So before we went to our first NBL, we read the rule book, which was like 30 pages. Everything you can think of was in there. And then we looked at the flyer, and it said, we're doing these 7 options. And
Right.
there's rules options, you know, you fight for 2 minutes or total points. It was all broken down, general criteria, specific criteria.
Yeah.
And what also it had, which I wish more rules would go to, is if you look in the specific criteria, it said what you were to judge on. Like for traditional, it was 50% basics, 50% overall performance.
Yeah, or like execution or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
But it wasn't, you know, just who do you think was the best, or
what do you like? Yeah.
what do you like? Exactly. There was a very specific set. And so for me, you know, going from basically a real local small tournament or circuit to going to my first regional NBL, I knew what to expect walking in the door. I didn't show up and be like, well, what's going on?
Right.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep.
And let's
Awesome, man.
let's acknowledge a couple shout outs that we've had here.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got thanks, Angel. Angel and I apparently are rivals now, or whatever, or I'm not sure, but yeah, I get on his nerves a lot. So thanks, Jackson for the congrats. And I know he's said many times that we inspired him to start his. We got from Point Fighter, Alex Reyes.
So,
Thank you, sir. And Jim Fish, thank you, sir. Awesome, man. Well, Brett, I appreciate it, man, and thank you for adding this in here. And yeah, I'm sure we will be talking about this more and more. So
absolutely,
yes, sir. I appreciate it, man. You have a great rest of your night.
You guys do the same.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Brett.
Boom. All right. So next
up, I really love that
yes,
one. I gotta tell you quick. I love the idea of it, because I think we keep talking about that, about, you know, unified rules, because it should be, it should be something. And I think the only way that happens is if 2 major circuits go, all right, we want to do this. If 2 major circuits go, we agree on this, then it's like, what are the rest of you doing? Right. And I think, and what are those 2 circuits that we look at? If we're talking big picture, it would be Waco and NASCA. Right? Because, I mean, Waco's the biggest. They're the biggest because what they cover area-wide. And then NASCA's the biggest in the U.S. And in my opinion, that's where the best martial artists in the open.
Well, and
circuit are.
even Waco, their competitors look towards NASCA competitors. You know what I mean? Like if you look at it, the reason why they've had this boom is because they brought NASCA champions over to Irish Open and the other tournaments to do seminars. You know,
That's
this
right.
was even before those guys were even competing. And because you got to remember, Raymond wasn't competing in Waco.
Right.
Like he wasn't going to Waco Worlds or things like that. You know, so those guys were looking to us. You know, so definitely interesting. All right, so next one is another one. He's been on our show before, I think on the first year. Joey Perry, how you doing, sir?
Great. How are you guys? Congratulations.
Thanks,
Thank
brother.
you,
Oh
thank
yeah, Joey's don't call it a comeback moment.
That's right, man. That's what's up. It's been a hot minute, but you got Richard and I both tonight, so see you brought it back.
That's right. Oh man,
that's awesome, man. And you guys look great. I mean, I love the suit. I love the look professional. And then Alex is like chilling, low key, fly, Tom Cruise look. It worked.
Now, here's the thing, though. On year one, on the first anniversary show, I put on a tuxedo.
Like a tuxedo, yeah.
Let's put it like this. I put on a tuxedo, top and tie. I was wearing shorts.
We were still in, COVID where
I'm wearing shorts.
Because nobody can see what's under.
Nobody can see what's under.
I don't even need to have pants on.
Jeff, what do you have?
I have pants on.
Yeah, pants.
I got pants. I'm at my karate school, so yeah, I don't want to stand up and
Keep it. It's all right. It's all good.
All right. So actually a lot of the topics tonight are very similar and not similar, but around the same type thing. Judging, rules.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's your thing too, So what do you want to kind of bring? Like I have it kind of talking about judging, continuing the education of judges. What would you like to talk about that?
Well, I mean, I think to touch on continuing education, let me piggyback on, what Sean just said. You guys are talking about, having major organizations and rules. A little bit of that's a problem, but the rules across the board are pretty similar. Everything's pretty close.
Similar.
I mean, depending on where you go, if you named the top 10 leagues, if you can name 10 leagues, that's impressive. But I mean, there are 10 leagues, but if you can name like the top 10 leagues, especially in North America, and you look at what we're doing, whether you're huge like NASCA, Waco, something like Pro Max, something which more regional stuff like the league, stuff like what USA Sport Karate's doing, you can name,
TKO.
We're all, we're all, it's all close, sport, martial art, close, whatever. So the rules aren't that crazy. So I don't think it would be, if there was some type of Justice League moment of coming to the table, to help sport martial arts. Like you said, what do we define ourselves as? Sport martial arts.
Right.
It would take the right characters, the right people, the right negotiation skills, the right mindset of giving value and not being selfish and not just thinking, this is good for our league and we don't want to change this or we don't want to go to that variation. Sure, but nationwide or worldwide or sport wide, it would help the other 70% or 80%, or it would be whatever. And that's with any subject, not just this, but it would take that and it would take the right couple leaders. I have some very strong opinions to go deeper on that, but I'm going to check those for the moment because I've got opinions on who and what it would take to do it, but that's another subject. But knowing that, it's not that, we've got a rules problem, but we don't really have a rules problem because you look at let me just use something I know, right? To go talking about continuing education, to go with that, like NASCA rules. And we're like a NASCA regional league and there's a few others. The problem is the regional leagues aren't all doing the same thing.
The same
right?
thing. Yep.
And then, we are, but you can come to, if you go to I'll throw a bone here, right? I'll throw it on. You go to a NASCA Midwest, event or Northeast event, or whatever they call it, the Atlantic, I guess. Those are regional leagues that are NASCA leagues, but they have the loose rule set within NASCA that says, well, you have options. Like we were just talking about options, right?
Right.
So it says there's options depending on what your event's rated. Are you a state rated? Are you an A rated 2, or 3? Of course, if you're a 4A or above,
you have to do X.
Yeah. You have to do the world stuff. You have to do the money, the divisions, the whatever. You can do extras, but there's a minimum, right? And we're just using NASCA as the example. But if you go to like those regions that are NASCA regions, admittedly, they'll be like, oh, well, we do this or we don't do that. Or, it's a little shaky here and there. I mean, you hear that. So it would take the regions and groups making sure that they're all following the rules, that they're all, every event's the same. I mean, I'll, pat on whatever. That's the thing. I mean, we mess up stuff in our regions, but consistently, you go to an event, you know what to expect. The rules are going to be followed. It's going to be by the book. We talked about the handbooks or the rule books. Now we've got them on our phone, right? We've got it right here 24/7. And NASCA one is too, you know what I mean? So we've got the rules, but that leads me to education. And I'd love to know what you guys, think, but I know what's happening like in our regions, right? But I don't know what's happening
everywhere else.
Talk to Tony in the league or talk to Jeremy and those guys in Southern Florida or whatever and go, not as many. I know that nobody's doing like the classroom training we're doing. Nobody's doing the private group, info that we're doing, and nobody's doing the level. Like I know that's not going on many other places on this level, like I'm not talking about AAU and whatnot.
Right.
It would help if it was, and it would help if some of those.
Everyone had something. And again, Joey, that kind of goes with those people from those reaching out to, say, ProMac and saying, okay, what are you doing and how can we do this? And ProMac working and just helping overall with that, and not necessarily, hey, we want to join this because it may not make sense, like, again, like for Jeremy, they have a strong group, strong following, that just, they don't need to change their name right now because they've done that, but they can work with you guys and say, okay, what are you doing that's working? What are we doing that's working? Because I've been to some of their events too. They're doing a great job, on that. And same thing with you guys and some of the other ones, and even organizations like WKC as well. So I think, that continuing education kind of goes back to the people working together too,
in the leagues. I mean, I wish, like you said, it doesn't matter who's in charge or who's doing, like, people could do a better job of that. And I, again, only speaking on experiences and, within my bubble, right? Not trying to speak for anybody else or not trying to say this is good, this is bad. Not really an infomercial, but on the subject, I've seen firsthand, like you guys, like we've grown up together, from afar, all three of us, we grew up in sport. We're kind of the same age, same era, the same, all that. Yeah. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the indifferent of officials, just like you guys have had. And we've had great officials like Charlie Lee and those of the past that were amazing in certain areas, but they needed to evolve. They needed to change. They needed to be willing to get into new concepts or hold the traditions or whatever, whatever is in need at that moment. And we lost some good people along the way because I don't think things have always been progressing like on the NASCA level. But like I know on our level, the same thing can be done, and we're doing it. We're doing like at Cowboy Up and US Open now for next year. We're doing more training. And what I've seen is locally and regionally, it's not your best officials that necessarily are getting phenomenally better, although they are. I can name drop. I can, like I'll pick like Richard. Richard's an example. Charles Garrett's an example. I think it's helped me. It's helped, there's Holly Hand. There's a ton of people that over the last 5 or 6 years I've watched that were already good officials. They were already solid, just like us. They've grown up in the game. They like officiating. They work hard. But the training, like us having the rule book and having the stances and having somebody say, hey, we're going to do a test, then we're going to go out here at this tournament while you guys are officiating. We're taking notes and we're going to tell you what you're doing well and what you're not. We're going to say, hey, when you're judging forms or weapons, remember you need to be looking, for these attributes and things. It doesn't matter, and when you're doing fighting, we need more movement, or you need to be watching this, or you need to make sure you're checking gear. Those are all little things that we do, that we do. And I've seen the good people get even better over the years because they care more, they pay more attention to detail. They become leaders in the rings And a great center official doesn't always help you win. You know, like they're not the one that gave you the 9. You think a great center official is somebody that they commanded the ring, they were in control, they were in charge, they were doing it like a chief instructor of a great studio. They were running that class, they were saying hi to the new people, they took care of the call, the problem that came up, they handled it, they knew what the schedule was, they knew, you know, that's what we look for at the studio. It's the same thing in the ring. If you've got a center referee that can manage those things, then everybody has a better experience, win, lose, or draw. But they have to be trained. You're not naturally a great instructor.
Yeah.
Just because you're a black belt,
you got to be trained.
You're a great instructor, right? And just because you're a black belt, or I've been doing this for 30 years, I got 18 stripes on my belt, that doesn't mean you're a great official. You know, you're probably not the best official at that point. You know, give me the 20-year-old second degree that's been through a year of certification training and had 8 tournaments where they've officiated. They're pretty on point to what they need to do right now.
Correct.
You know?
They're in what's going on for this league, for the sport. Yeah. That whole thing of what your rank is or whatever, like
doesn't matter.
You know, it's got to go. But
experience and knowledge matter.
Yeah.
And usually rank is with that, right? But we know we know the thing that we're saying, right? It's just because there's, you know, we
one thing Brett said, he thinks that we are coming together closer now than we were 20 years ago. And part of that's because we have more, social media, stuff like this. We're able to talk easier now and coming together, and people are voicing their opinions now. And before, I mean, some people may not have even known what the league was over in the West Coast. You know what I mean?
Well, like here's an example with that, Jeff. Would you mention? I think when you were talking about when you and Angel did the show.
Yeah,
I had no clue. Joey, did you know that there in Virginia there's a tournament where they don't have a time limit?
Right. It's just first to 7.
They don't have a time limit when they fight.
Really?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is 2022.
Yep.
And we didn't even know.
It's like UFC 1. Let's go.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, there's still things like that we're dealing with, you know. So I love bringing that topic up, Joey. I know we want to go and let someone else come in, but I appreciate it, man. And of course, you know, you're welcome on the show. And
thank you.
And thank you for supporting and sharing what we do and listening every week as well. So
awesome, man. I'm proud of you guys. Thank you guys for keeping it clean and professional with a little bit of edge, being funny. You know, you're not ragging on everybody. You're talking about experiences. And those are the best shows, when whether you went to a tournament and competed, or you both went, or you watched online. I mean, we all know things don't always go perfectly. You know, I mean, you could always name that happened, or this call didn't go that way, or that score, or this tournament, whatever. But there's a lot of good things too, you know. And I like how, you know, you usually will talk about maybe the things that didn't go well, if they need to be discussed, because that's fair. But at the same time, always making sure that you talk about the positives and the good. And we need more of that across the sport. We need the positivity. We need the truth, but we need the positivity and to keep lifting each other up. So thank you guys for having me.
Wouldn't it be great if the truth was always positive?
It would be, but it's the truth is just the truth. But we can stay positive. We can speak positively, and we can move forward positively.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully get more people to work together, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Okay. I know you have noticed this about me, because there's not hard for me to jump in and start talking.
Oh, I know.
And I was like, okay, Alex, we got a lot of insiders coming today. Dial it back, Alex. Did you notice that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I even raised my hand once. Did you see that?
Yeah, you did. You raised your hand. That was hilarious. I almost removed you from the stream when you did that, because I was like, who is this? All right, we got a couple comments. You know, just thank you, Brian Crum. Yes, Mom. Definitely the meeting of the minds would be great. Sean says, need Elon Musk to make the sport MMA Justice League. And let's see. This is a good one. We may get into just a question. You think we'll ever have judges for specific things, which is actually something that we're getting to. So let me I was going to go with Richard,
mean,
but
that
I'm going to
could
go
be
ahead and go with Michael
possible.
now, since that is kind of what his was about. What's up, Michael? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, guys? So to piggyback off of kind of what Mr. Perry was saying and what Mr. Schoaf just brought up, one thing I would like to see heading into the future is forms people judging forms, fighters judging fighting.
Yeah.
And kind of from just personal experience, I think it would help with the efficiency of a tournament as a whole. Because I know for a fact, when it comes time for fighting, I'm out of there. I don't practice it. I don't train it. So I do not think it'd be fair to any other fighter, even like the little kid division, for me to judge them. Because I don't train it. So it wouldn't be fair.
But you're honest. Look at that, though.
Yeah.
How many martial artists that have been at this thing for decades would say that? You know what I'm saying, though?
Right. And to go off of one more point that Mr. Perry had brought up, continuing the education, keeping yourself up on the trends, and going to one thing that I really like for what they've done is you have to go to 3, 5, 8, a certain amount of tournaments per year to, one, retain your certification, but also move up in rank for, I think they have like 3 tiers or something.
Yeah.
But my whole thought process behind this is forms people know what to look for in forms, fighters know what to look for in fighting. There's a handful of people like Jeff, Mr. Perry, and a couple of others who they judge both equally, they competed in both equally. And I think if you start to focus on that more, judge specialization, you're going to get a lot better results, a lot happier people, a lot more efficient of a tournament.
You know, I want to say absolutely. You know, there was a division I competed in. This is, 15 years ago. And I couldn't believe, when was it? It was probably, it was 15 years ago. It was 2007. And it was the men's creative division, right?
Oh, yeah.
This was the panel of judges. And then it was Charlie Lee was the center. So we're already looking good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are the 2 corners. Okay. Remember, this is the men's 18 to 29 creative division. Matt Emig, Daniel Sterling.
So yeah, you're looking great, right?
Right? Matt Emig, Daniel Sterling, and Charlie Lee. What? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly what you want for a division like that. You know what I mean? But then, how many times have we seen later on in the afternoon them judging the men's middleweight, fighting division? We're like, I don't think this should be still the case.
Exactly.
Just because you were in ring 6 doesn't mean you should stay there.
Right.
And
Mike, what I was going to say, and this is something that I'm sure Brett is probably thinking as well, that was one of the best things about Super Grands, NBL Super Grands, was the rings were set based on the division. So you had a Japanese ring, you had a Korean ring, you had a creative or a musical ring, and you had those judges that were picked to judge that for that week. And for the most part, I mean, of course, you're going to have some people aren't always thinking that they were the best. But you know what? Like, they judged based on what they were taught, because they had a 2-hour rules meeting every morning on how to make sure they're judging correctly. What they need to look for, what they need to do. Sometimes we would have videos of, hey, this is what choreography should look like. So there's many things like that that were really good about NBL, and I think the other leagues can do that as well now.
Going off the choreography.
Go ahead.
You want to be looking at the 16-17 boys musical weapons division, because very soon Philip's going to be debuting something with his commas and choreography real soon.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Wait, Philip who?
I would love to see that.
Philip who?
Philip Rume, his brother.
Yes.
Oh, Philip Rume. Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that, because I think that is that's something that we've been talking about, needing choreography back.
Is he going to win?
And if we don't, then why have the musical divisions to begin with? I think it's almost better to do like Pro Mac does and some of the other ones do, where it's creative and extreme, and music is optional. If you're not going to make it actually different, if you're not going to judge it based on the actual music,
Right.
So yeah. Awesome, man.
And
yes, one more thing.
One more thing. So I believe Andrew Cabalon came up on the screen.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with what he said. Traditional guys should judge traditional, unless there's people who have experience with both.
Right.
Like, I know you actively compete both traditional and CMX forms, so that's a perfect candidate.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm kind of like a unicorn, so I'm not always. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody is gonna be able to do that. But I mean, I actually explained to someone today how I judged them and why I looked at it this way. They were actually talking about, our show last week that we talked about, and also a video that came up today that I kind of got active in and was trolling back some trolls. But so we may get into that in a little bit too. But yeah,
who are guys?
That's one of the things. What'd you
Jeff,
say?
Like, who are other guys? Like, you could really, if someone was like, no, what?
I think Andrew Cabalon is actually one as well. He can do creative and traditional. He can judge both. Even someone like Jared Liker can as well. Who'd you say?
Chris Walker.
Yes, Chris Walker can do all three as well.
No, Chris Walker and you
everything.
Could judge everything in the tournament.
Right. And I think there's other ones that have been trained to do that. I think sometimes we've looked at.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think Richard can judge everything as far as that because he's been trained to do it. He's been looking at it. There's people that study this and love it. So I mean, if you want to get good at something, you need to be like all in, right? So
right.
But yep. All right, Michael. Thank you so much, man, for joining, and thanks for supporting the show, bud.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
see y'all later.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, maybe
right.
That's a topic one time. Is like, who had the best musical form choreography of all time? So if you look at there's probably a few performances where, like, I mean, that was probably the best choreography I've ever seen to your music. You know what I mean? So something just popped in your head. I could tell when I said that. What was it?
Oh, well, I mean, I always go to like John Fournette or like Charlie Lee, that kind of era. But there was a lot of great ones in NBL in the 90s.
When they are like, how about like Guy Burkett when he created his music, right?
Yeah, but there's good and bads with that. I really like that, and it was creative at the time. But then it kind of started a whole thing of everyone just, okay, well, instead of it used to being, okay, I'm going to pick this song and put my form to it. Now it's like, I'm going to do my form and I'm just going to splice every little thing to make it work, which I think some of us have kind of.
Kim Do was good.
All are guilty of that in some way. But
well,
yeah, I mean.
Is that bad though? Because then if you're doing that, if you're saying, all right, we have to be choreographed.
Right.
It is. I don't know that it's bad.
No.
But then I suppose once you go to the next division, it is the same thing when you just take the music out. I suppose there's that.
Yeah, and what would happen would be they wouldn't change the tempo of their form. Nothing would change. You would just hear sound effects like, like you're watching like a really bad kung fu movie from the 70s.
That's what made it so cool.
Man, we're getting a lot of comments here.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go in with Richard now. I know, Doug, you're getting restless, but I'll get you in there in a second. All right, Richard, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Happy anniversary, guys. How you doing?
Thank you.
Thanks,
doing
brother.
Great, doing great, good. Man.
So this is an anniversary. Who's buying me steak, or do I gotta buy you steak? Who takes who out to dinner on the anniversary?
Man. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Okay, we got to get that worked out.
We have to get that worked out. Oh man, thanks, Tony. All right, so we've kind of, I know, like I said, Richard's like, we've kind of have a lot of things on judging and stuff. And I know you can go on and on about that too. But one thing that since we started the show, we've talked a lot about Korean martial arts, Taekwondo, and you and I have had a lot of conversations on why does sport karate need more TKD, schools, support, everything? Why do you feel that? And let's share some ideas.
Sure. So let's go back to one thing. Perception is everything in this sport. That's what drives our sport. Sport karate from the outside world, we talk WKF, Taekwondo leagues, AAU, it operates like it's a closed circuit. People feel like sport karate is a closed circuit. It's NASCARified. It's this, it's that. Well, if you compete here, you won't win on NASCAR because it's all NASCARified. So, and I'm a big NASCAR supporter, so it's not a knock on NASCAR. It's just a perception of people.
Right.
Korean stylists are a huge demographic we're meeting. When you looked at the AAU Taekwondo Nationals, I think they were bigger than the Karate AAU Nationals because there was thousands of them. And the biggest thing is they like to do forms and they all love to point fight. So the thing is we'll get more point fighters. We'll get more just schools in general. And in Taekwondo schools, when you talk about as a promoter, so I'm a promoter, right? And we talk about people bringing people to our tournaments and stuff like that. Taekwondo schools will bring 30, 40, 50, 60 people to these tournaments. Now, do they all do well in the tournaments? No, but they support whatever they do, their schools support that. But we're not built right now for Korean stylists because there's no avenue for them. For one, there's no showcase. We don't have much of a showcase on the stage.
Nope.
Even if it's just a demo of doing a Korean form, everything looks like it's karate driven. And I'm a Taekwondo guy. That's what I grew up in. But we never competed in traditional Taekwondo. We went straight to the open circuit. So I think we're missing a huge element. But the biggest thing is perception. The perception is that sport karate operates like a closed circuit, and there's no openness. There's no openness about it. We've got to get people involved. And I've had this discussion with other people too, even like community programs. Like I know there's an expense to NASCAR and tournaments and stuff like that, but we just have to be more inclusive of people to allow them to come and participate. We are the open. Like when it comes to top level, Alex said it best. This is the top level for open.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better.
This is it. This is where people need to go. There needs to be more collaboration. It'd be great to have some ambassadors for NASCAR that go to other tournaments, but they're actually NASCAR ambassadors to say, look, this is where we compete. And they go and we'll watch NASCAR competitors go and win AAU tournaments. Like they will dominate those tournaments. Go ahead.
So because Jeff and I have had this from not from year one, from day one.
Yeah.
Day one, we've been having this conversation. But I want to know your opinion, not necessarily on that. What we'll be talking about day one is why do so many Korean stylists do Japanese form in competition? We beat that one to death. Okay.
Sure.
My question is, what's your opinion? Do you feel like on that NASCAR circuit, do you feel like the background of these martial artists are more Korean based, like Taekwondo based, or karate based? Which one do you feel like? And I didn't mean to do a wax on and a wax off, but I just did.
You did.
I didn't even do that intentionally.
I think there's more Korean-based martial artists than what we know, and a lot of them have had to transition over to it. And I don't know where it changed. When you look at the 80s and 90s, some of the top Taekwondo guys, even ATA or other Taekwondo organizations, they always would try out one or two NASCAR tournaments to see where they were. They could be a 27 national time champion in their organization, but they would always go and try a NASCAR event. And now that doesn't happen. Those guys do not go to open tournaments anymore. And Kimpo, I see that it's the same way. I mean, there is not much
inviting.
Yeah, it's not there. The crossover is not there. If we as a sport karate, somebody said something about communication. Yeah, we as sport karate people communicate, but we may be more divided than ever because everybody went to their corners. Tiger Rock's got their own thing. ATA's got their own thing. I just saw Long Beach Internationals, which used to be a huge tournament. It's not what it was in previous years. So, it's just everybody went to their corners and have stayed in their corners, and the crossover is not there. Right. But are we doing enough to invite them to go, hey, look, if you come and get fourth place at open tournaments because you got fourth place at open tournament, but if somebody comes and gets a fourth place at open tournament, their first thing out, well, this is biased. This is biased judging.
Right.
I had a whole Taekwondo group not come to my tournament again, like 50 competitors, because they felt like our judging was biased. They're like, Richard, we can't You know, I don't believe it was biased judging, but the perception was,
Yeah.
look, we can't win here. We just cannot win here. We
Yep.
can't even place here in forms. And so, you know, why come back? And so it just needs to be more inviting. And we would see huge numbers if we got more of the Taekwondo groups, our events. I still think we leave a lot on the table. I think a lot of NASTA tournaments could be double the size, double. And that may be even too small of a number. But I think if we were a little bit more inviting with different groups, some of these tournaments could be just massive, like 2,000-3,000 people every single weekend that we've got a NASCA tournament. But so NASCA drives
I got a question on that though.
Go ahead.
So when you're saying like, you know, this other group, like the AAU Taekwondo guys, like they're just massive amounts of competitors. Like they'll bring 50, 60, 70, 100 plus guys. But we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
We're not doing ourselves.
To really, and we'll just call it to ourselves. So then I have another question. This is where my mind goes. I go, well, they clearly have that to provide. They can pull. They can bring this here. They can bring this there. We clearly don't.
Right.
So why is that, number one? What is it that they're doing where they even have this pool of competitors to do that? And what are we doing? What are we doing wrong? Maybe where we're not messing up at the top level. Sure. That's not messed up. We're the best. All right. Okay. So, but there's this pool of hundreds of competitors that we just don't have in our schools. What's going on? Why do you think?
I think it's a culture. We've got a lot of top competitors in our sport that have got huge schools that don't support the sport anymore.
Yep.
And for one reason or the other, us as a sport have let them down. We've done something to where they don't feel supported anymore, or they felt like they were just a number on a wall. And we've lost that. I think it's a culture thing. Somebody said something on one of our forums the other day about, and I hope I'm not taking up too much time. I know we got other people too, so I'll try and be quick as I can. But it is a culture thing. BJJ schools, grappling schools, they live to compete. Taekwondo schools are more sport TKD now. There are traditional Taekwondo schools, but it is sport. It is culture. It is built that they're going to go and they're going to compete. And so for them to load up 20, 30 people, that's what the culture is built. And I think we have a lot of people in our sport that have been with our sport that have been burned by something or whatever, but they never got reached out to. Once somebody leaves the sport, I don't feel we do a good job of going out and putting our arms back around them and going, hey, how do I get you back involved again? What do we got to do? What happened? You know, what can we do to fix this to get you guys back involved again? You lived in the sport for years and now you don't support it. Why? I always ask that question. Why? What's going on? Ask questions. You know, I probably asked too many questions on social media, but we got to ask. We got to ask. We will never have the answers. We keep guessing and throwing stuff against the wall and thinking it's going to stick. But we just got to ask, what's going on? What can we do to fix it? But I think the Korean stylists, again, I hope I don't want to jump on everybody else's time, but you know, we got to be more inviting for people to come and do what we do.
I think you're on something with that.
Yeah. I was going to say one thing that I feel like, and I've learned this from Mike Tobin in Utah. One thing he did to make sure he got those Korean schools was to offer board breaking divisions, because that's something that is huge in Korean Taekwondo. And it's, you know, again, it's huge in their systems. Offer that. And then he would give them, because that was their first thing. And that was really the only thing they would go, because they didn't feel like they could win the other divisions. So one of the things was, okay, so how can we take this idea of getting all these people there, and then he would give them one division free to kind of try something else, right? But the same problem is they feel like they can't win, or they don't know how to perform against those people. So what do you do? That's where we have that continuing education for the competitors too. We need to have a free seminar or something right there in that ring after that division's done for all those people, you know, and have someone that's saying, hey, here's a division that I'm going to teach you how to compete in. Something like that. I mean, you can do that on a Friday. You can do that somewhere there. there's different ways to do it. It's going to take a long time, but again, like you said, perception is the key. So we just need to be inviting, you know.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
if there is a division, again, like that was one thing that was always good. Again, I keep going back to NBL, but we had junior Korean divisions. You know, we had junior Kempo divisions. So you had something for them. Now we don't have any of that. So it all looks like traditional Japanese Okinawan karate in the
Right.
junior divisions. So
And we don't showcase it on stage. Very
No.
rarely do you see a Korean form make
Right.
it on stage, and we got to
Right.
showcase that.
Yep, definitely.
Well, there's
All right,
one
my
guy
friend.
who probably should have been on stage.
We'll get
It's a
there.
whole other show.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, bro. Good seeing you,
Hey.
and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. This has been fun, man. Hey, this private chat in the back has been kind of fun too.
Oh, man,
Reading all
it's been
this stuff.
awesome. It's like
I
the show
know.
within the show.
I know. Yes, very huge what Mike Tobin did. Tony, you're right. Lots of great stuff, man. What's up, Jeff Orlowski? Thank you guys for all the comments. This has been fun.
Yeah. This
All
is
right.
really
So this next one is another one on judging and maybe looking at a different system for us to go off of. And then actually the other person has the same thing. So I may bring them in both, one first and one right after or together. We'll see. But all right. So first is one of our great supporters, Doug. How you doing, Doug?
Good. How's it going, guys?
What's up, buddy?
good, brother.
Not much.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
let's hear it.
All right. So after, this is my first year on NASCA. I've really only been doing karate for like 5 years. And so third year competing, first year on NASCA. And, my daughters both compete. And so I see things. And, obviously I'm like, how did this do that? I have the infamous daughter with the thumb punches. That was last week. And so I got to thinking, and it just popped in my head, how does gymnastics do their scoring? And I don't think, I read on it, it's very complicated. And I don't know that it needs to be as complicated as gymnastics, but the one takeaway that I took from it, and again, I'm not so naive to believe that this idea fixes all the problems, but I'm sitting here listening to everybody. I'm like, if we did the scoring this way, maybe this would help things out. In gymnastics, for anybody who's watching that doesn't know, you have a execution score, and I believe what they call it, it's on a different window here. It's an execution score and then like a degree of difficulty score.
Yeah.
And since last week, I've been thinking I had notes and I threw them away, and then I was like, oh, these are dumb. So let me keep these notes. I'm just like, whatever. I'm going off the cuff. This
That's
is what's
awesome.
happening.
Join the club.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I feel like Alex sometimes, just squirrel idea. I like it. I've never met him in person, but one NASCAR tournament maybe. And my wife's name's Lindsay too, so I don't know what's up with that.
That's
Okay. This is cool.
So yeah, she's the one always taking pictures with the baby on her back at a lot of tournaments. So Lindsay Little Photography, check it out. Sorry. So I was just sitting there going, with you could do something like a 0 to 10 execution score. How well do you execute karate and whatever you're doing, how well are your punches, your kicks, whatever tricks you do, how well you execute them. And then you would have a separate score, 0 to 5, 0 to 3. And I called it a division. I landed on divisional score.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was like degree of difficulty. And I was just like, I'm landing on divisional score. How accurate is your kata or your weapons form to the division you're doing?
Correct.
I've seen really, really good traditional forms win creative.
Right.
And I'm like, you got this guy who's doing butterflies and in the creative division, he's doing butterflies, tornadoes, kickovers, and all these creative things,
Right.
losing to a traditional kata. The karate was a little bit better in the traditional. I get that, but it's the creative division.
Correct.
You have, and I think you guys will love this one. When it comes to the music, you would have a 0 to 10 score, and then you would have a choreography score.
Right.
How well did your kata fit the music rule. And so I think a lot of times the flashy katas win music, even though it's just playing in the background.
Well, yeah.
Whereas you've got some people that are doing 15 kicks in a row. Everyone is on beat, but he didn't trick.
Right.
So it's not fancy. So they don't
Unless you
win.
Jeff off, you don't win.
I
Anyway,
wasn't gonna say any names.
yeah.
But I've seen it, and I just think that's because it's cool that you can trick, and that's great. I can't trick. I just learned an aerial like 2 weeks ago. And so, but that's the extreme division. So in the extreme division, your divisional score would be based on your tricking. Are you just doing an aerial and a 540? Or are you doing aerials, 540s, B twists, corks, flashes? I don't know all the other tricks because I don't trick.
But I got some sad news.
Ain't gonna work.
The creative division, as it's structured, is really, you're not gonna like this, but Jeff, you know it's true.
Yeah.
It is basically structured so that you can toe the line and then they disqualify you.
Right.
It is not encouraged for you to do anything.
They're not really looking for what you do. They're looking for what
you can't do.
You can't do.
So
instead of what you should
do. The only thing they look at for the rules in the division is how to disqualify you. There is nothing in the rules. There is nothing about the division that says this is a good score. The only thing spoken about in that entire division is what to disqualify you for.
Right.
If you upside down, DQ'd.
Right. And you look and you ask, ask anybody on the circuit, be like, what's the difference between the creative division and the extreme? I don't understand. All they'll tell you is the things you can't do.
Right.
And so
not
you go,
what you should be looking for. Right.
Exactly. So then all it's there for whoever was already going to win extreme or musical or both. And then they just do another division.
Yeah.
Right.
And NBL had a choreography score
that have been that good in creative. There's few people. There has been some. So I'm not trying to, throw shade on people like Marcel Jones, who's one of my great friends. I love that guy. All right. But I mean, how many people can we really name that were like that? It's really
well. I talked to my instructor, and I've heard you guys mention it before. You can do. I think creative, like Andrew just said, is extreme light, and we have kids that will do 16 kicks. Jeff does a lot of kicks, but he doesn't trick. So you got this tricker over here who doesn't do any multi kicks. And I mentioned something. My daughters can kick straight up. And I'm like, that's just a thing, right? And my instructor was like, show me how many kids can kick straight up, And so that should be in favor of her, but she can't do
What's your daughter's name?
Rachel Little. She's a yellow belt.
Man, she's yellow.
Yeah.
Time out. She's a yellow belt?
Yes, sir.
And she can kick straight up?
Well, she's 7. She has no hips.
Man.
Yeah.
No.
She was on the US Open. If you want to watch her kata, she was on the US Open Night of Champions for forms and weapons.
Right there. Listen, when people say like, oh, they're natural in anything martial arts, that annoys me because none of these movements are natural. None of these things are natural. They're all a skill, right?
Right.
Now, she might have had an ability to develop that skill quicker than others, but damn, you made me take my glasses off with that. What?
I'll send you a picture. I'll find you on Facebook and send you her Facebook picture. But
I thought you could tell me like she was a 2nd degree black belt or something like that, and I'm like, what?
No. And so I just think, and then when you get to grands, you've got the creative person that comes up and they have a scores on the notepad, on the judge's notepad. They have a 0 to 10 score on execution, and then a 1 to 5 score on how well they fit the creative kata. And so they get a 12 a 9 and a 3, right?
Right.
And so then your extreme person comes up and they get an
Should've
8.
been
They
you.
stumbled on their flash kick. They had a couple little hiccups here. So even though it was all good and there's a lot of tricks and it was great, you know, they only got 2 out of 5 plus 9 is 11. So now I can, it helps set the judges up for not being able to mess up. I think y'all mentioned one time the judges aren't, it's just, and it still gives the judge freedom to however they want to deduct within that 10-point score.
Right.
You know, and then musical, you know, a creative musical can beat an extreme musical because it's choreographed. And my instructor said, what is choreography? Music goes fast, I go fast. Music goes slow, I go slow. Or is it beat, 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 beat? That's also going to be.
Yeah, that's something that needs to be looked at. I think, though, you still can also look at difficulty of choreography. You know, I mean, there are very easy songs to choreograph to, and then there's harder ones. So you look at that. So again, it's easier to do if it goes fast, I go fast. So you're going to be, that's going to be at a lower level of choreography compared to someone who's doing that as well as hitting beats. So I think again, it's not just this is choreography. There's different levels to it. So and I think a lot of times that's not talked about, you know.
Right. And I think you standardize the divisional scale.
Right.
You standardize that. If it's just background music, we're to 1. If you go fast, music goes fast, you go fast, you get 2.
Yeah.
If you're on 10% of the beats, you get a 3. If you're on like and so that's standardized. So there's no judge opinion. It lets the judges just, you know, like if you drop your weapon, you're DQ'd. If you catch it in your forearm instead of your hand, it's a standardized deduction. Speaking of which, I don't know, this might just be I think open hand needs to have an equivalent of a bow drop DQ. I don't know, that might be just me being naive, but if you drop your weapon and you're DQ'd for it, is there not something that's that offensive that's in an open hand form? You know, you do a trick and fall.
Right. You're not going to get DQ'd. Yeah, you're usually not DQ'd. Yeah, I agree.
But if the rest of your kata is okay and it's great, except for that one miss, I've seen people win.
Right. There should be a standardized deduction for that. I think
for a stumble.
For that or for a drop, you know, not an automatic DQ. I don't think it should be that because again, then all that does is set it up to where someone just doesn't throw their hardest stuff, you know. So
that's true.
Yeah. All right. So I like this, man. This was a good discussion here. I'm going to bring on Mickey because he's kind of talking about how very similar to what you're talking about, but how he's applied this to his circuit and his stuff. So thanks, Doug. I'll see you soon, my friend. See you in a couple weeks, maybe.
Diamonds. I'll be at Diamonds.
Sounds great. See you, bud. All right. Let's bring in our last one. I think we got him just audio only. What's up, Mickey?
Hey, congratulations, guys, on your 3 years.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, so great. So yeah, as you mentioned, so this is the 4th year that I was organizing for the Capital Classics China Open, the internal martial arts competition. So in 2017, we introduced a quantitative scoring system, and at first we went like really hard. We had like 10 categories, subcategories. So the judges, they were busy. They look for very technical things, very specific things, and also some like the overall kind of picture as well. And so the influence was not only from like the NASCA side or traditional Chinese martial arts tournaments, which is similar to NASCA in a very holistic single score, but kind of going back to what everyone's talking about with gymnastics with the International Wushu Federation. There, what they have is they have a very similar scoring system, except they break it into 3 big parts. First part is basics, and they have like different components, you know, like your stance and your power and your speed. The second one is like your typical NASCA score. And the third one has to do with all the tricking. So in Wushu, they call it difficult movements. So when you got jumps, spins, balances, all of these things. and they have separate judges assigned to each of these 3 major subcategories. So what we did is, in Tai Chi, we didn't have the necessarily difficult movements, the tricking, because it was a traditional tournament. All but maybe one competitor in history was able to do that, but that's a side quest thing. But the point is, it went really well. The judges loved it, and then this was the 4th year we had it, and we decided to pare back to only 6 subcategories of total scoring because it was a little bit overwhelming for the judges because each judge was looking at all 10 things before.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of learning curve. It works really well. The judges actually did like it, aside from being a little bit too busy with it, which is why we compromised with 6. Now, the 6 is pretty easy. You got 5 basics, and then you got the 1 overall score. And we actually incorporated for the other parts of China Open, so for the Wushu and for the Kung Fu this year. And it sounds like it went pretty well from the judges I was speaking to. And I feel like this could be a way to sort of inherently take out this bias against the Korean stylists in the traditional realm when it's open format for like all the different styles competing for traditional, because the degree of difficulty element is definitely missing. And I think that's what the judges look for. Right. You guys mentioned it at length, but what I agree with is that they look for only the fault of a balance or a high kick instead of recognizing, well, that's a higher degree of difficulty.
Correct.
And like a typical, maybe not like the top one, but maybe outside of like 1 or 2 of the best Japanese Okinawan forms I've seen.
Let's just be honest.
Degree of difficulty, there's a lot less risk. So if you don't, you should encourage competitors to take risk. And of course, I've heard NASCA promoters say it, give lip service to it, but we haven't actually seen them have the guts to implement it. But I don't think it'd be that difficult. Ooh. I mean, I've been able to work with our overall coordinator in China Open to streamline this to Kung Fu and Wushu. I know it wouldn't be difficult, to come up with different categories specifically for NASCA. I think the difficulty, whether it's traditional or not, has to be there. And so, I know I'm a little biased because I did, going back to the musical, it comes from the Junri system, which I'm that's my heritage. And of course, I competed with choreographed musical forms, although it was with Tai Chi. And so the point is, I think it's just a matter of going to the judges, because if the judges, there was like one of my comments, myself and one other side judge, we were at the side judges for the Capital Classics. We said we would enforce. This is DC for Capital Classics, so we're going to enforce musical choreography. So the guy who won, it was a youth division. His musical form was amazing, and he had a lot of kicking combinations too, and everything was spot on. He won, and he definitely deserved it. He didn't have the any of the tricking per se, like extreme. It was probably creative, but he won because he deserved it. And number 3 was a guy who also did a musical choreographed form, probably degree of difficulty being lower than like number 2, 4, and 5, but it depends. It just all has to go back to the judging. If the judges have the guts to say, okay, well, this is why you fared lower. Your form might be harder and might be good, but it's just background music. So it all has to do with the judges. Judges get properly trained. They just do it purely based on the rules, and the results will speak for themselves.
Yeah, and I like how you guys have done this. Like, okay, we're going to do this for this one tournament, and we're going to see how it works. And then eventually, and you started with one division really, and then spread it to a next one, and that's how it needs to go. We need to try it out at some type of event, and then go from there, and just to where eventually you're working out all the kinks, and then you put it to every event.
Right. I think that's a great idea. Instead of a traditional challenge, I think that's deliberately undercutting NASCA, like all the traditional divisions that exist. I think there shouldn't be a traditional challenge.
Right.
Period. Not a Korean challenge or a Chinese challenge or a Japanese challenge. No, we should go back and say, okay, well, you want to demonstrate a classical form of your style. great. Judges should be properly aware of those things, and if not, tell them to watch some videos and here's a sample of like 15 classical forms that you should be aware of and what it should generally look like, right? And
Right.
so I think instead of having a traditional challenge, maybe they can have like an experimental quantitative scoring division challenge. Maybe it should be they can pick one per tournament. Maybe it could be the musical, maybe it could be the creative, things that are very like rule driven, like
Right.
not extreme, because extreme there's like, as long as you hit at least one minimum extreme, it's an extreme form, but things that are more technical, I think we can start with.
Awesome.
Mickey, I know we're getting late on time, but I really feel like you're either onto something or you're on something, and I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
But
Thanks.
I think if you think about, and we've mentioned this a lot, and I want to give just like a side little, attaboy. We have throughout this show and the history of this show been saying NASCA, 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 NASCA. And the reason why, especially so heavily today, is because they're the best. All right.
Yes.
And so I don't want to make it sound like, oh, NASCA's got to figure it out. They're the best. Okay. Just gonna say that. Okay. So now, but what I think is what happened from when we went to what we've been saying, this is open martial arts competition.
Mhm.
We've like subtly just been now segregating it to it's not open anymore. All right.
Right.
It's
Right.
not open. All right. And like so many of the insiders that were on today, they were like, it just feels like a closed circuit. It feels like, oh, that's NASCAfied. It was one of the things that one of us said. It just feels like, oh, we can't when we go, because it's really not open, right?
Right.
There used to be, and like what we said before, there was form, compete. Now there does need to be some kind of direction. Like, okay, this guy's got a sword in his hand. He does not. Maybe they should be in different divisions. Maybe one's with a weapon, maybe one's without weapons. That makes sense. Okay? That does make sense. Someone who's doing an extreme form and someone who's doing choreo. Okay. Those are two different worlds. Maybe they should be in different divisions. This does make a little bit of sense. All right? But I think when we start taking like, all right, this is our traditional form, and now you start slicing that apart, then it's like, well, wait a minute. Now, what is this now? Because before there already was this closed circuit for Taekwondo competition. There already was this closed circuit for
now. We're trying to be just like those closed circuits, but within our one circuit.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I didn't compete that many years, but I'd say that like certain years they had like traditional only challenge, like a traditional grand, that was it, and then a CMX. And then the following year, they had everyone back together again. Right. And I think that's the beauty of NASCA. What I really like about NASCA is that there should be this openness to compete. And in the end, It should be martial arts. And I think that's why we want to improve, and we are all harping on trying to get NASCA to be better, because we really believe in the concept.
Yeah, it has the best chance of any league, really.
And I'd say that like maybe it's my own bias having competed in Chinese division, which inherently is open itself, because you got people like me not doing any like jumps, and then you got people who doing wushu. So like for many years it's like, okay, well, whatever our division winner is will get kind of put into the traditional bracket for the grands or the CMX bracket for the grands. So I think that was kind of cool, but also at the same time, musical division, I think, is another inherently. I know Jeff and I could disagree on this, but I feel like that's another inherently open division,
right?
Because there isn't any specific rules to saying, well, it's got to be an extreme form, or it's got to be a creative form, it could be a traditional form. Right. So
I think just the problem with that is then why separate the grands, right? If there's not.
Right.
So I think, again, I understand what you're saying with the musical, but then there needs to be, then we don't need to separate like CMX and traditional. It just needs to be one grand again,
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the very first year that I competed, what are all the division winners, we go up, we may like narrow it down during runoffs, and then we have like certain number. Of course, my very first tournament was the one that where Marcel won overall grands with creative. Yeah, that one. So
wasn't that a dope
I thought
one
that was
too?
really cool.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I was the runner-up to Marcel that year and the overall.
Man,
but that was the first time I was on stage. I was representing musical division that year. I think somebody else had won, Chinese, I think, or I don't remember.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, I won the musical, and Marcel was the creative, and I think Josh Kahn was the extreme. It was awesome. I mean, and watching Marcel, I think that was one of his best creative forms. I mean, I've seen a ton of his forms. I'm a huge fan. So I mean, I'm a fan of the sport, and so every year that I was competing, I just marveled in like my fellow competitors. I mean, I can't do anything that they can do. I'm sure they couldn't do what I could do. So, but that's the beauty of it. We're different, and so want to be just judged fairly. And some days the judges may like the other one better. Some days they like mine better, or the third person, or whatever. And that's cool. And I think that's the essence of this open competition.
Awesome. Thank you, Mickey, man. Thanks for supporting the show and just adding to it tonight. We really appreciate it, man. We're gonna
Thanks.
start. We gotta cut out, but thank you so much, man. And we will talk soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much, Mickey.
All right. So I know, Brett, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get to that because we are kind of going heavy. But Alex, what do you got as far as to wrap up? Each of us can say, man,
I
this
love
was just
so
fun.
much of what everybody's been talking about. You know what I mean? I mean, there are some really good ideas here, and that's what we're here is all about, ideas. I think the idea of it unifying, that's possible. I love some of the things that Doug was talking about. Maybe let's judge it like gymnastics. Maybe that's a great idea. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I love what Mickey was talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's great stuff, man. I know we were heavy on forms today.
Is always entertaining.
We were heavy on forms today, but
wow, do we even talk about fighting on this show? If you listen to the 3 year,
it's wild.
Yes, we do a lot.
Yes, we do a lot. But again, thank you guys so much for supporting. Thanks everyone who jumped on and was a part of it. Thanks for all the comments today.
Hey, who do we got next week?
Next week we have Gabrielle Dunn, Miss New WWE signee. She's going to be on the show. So talking about sport karate in pro wrestling. So that's going to be awesome. As well as all the different things that she's done. Being involved with Century and Black Belt Magazine, and karate and everything. And then the week after that, we're going to have Maggie Messina on to talk about, her Female Fighters Matter movement, as well as just different things in the sport, about that. So some of the coolest things she's seen or has been a part of since starting that movement. And some of the stuff she's seen as far as being a competitor and a school owner for this. So, and then I believe after that we will have, we got a big group. Man. Yeah, we got Regina Thompson and hopefully Willie Hicks on, but I know Regina's going to be on. And then after that, we have another. We're still getting that one lined up, but yeah. So we got the next few weeks. We got interviews. We are going to be going to a new format, guys, soon. So we probably won't be on Facebook Live as much. We're going to be doing Patreon and some other things. So we just recorded last night some new bonus episode stuff. So you guys, it's going to be fun. We got a lot of cool things going on. I'm working on a show going to be called Behind the Form or Behind the Fight, where we interview the person who created the form, and we'll watch it together, what it felt like for them to do it, why they did it this way, different stuff like that. And then same thing with maybe a big historical fight that we thought was awesome. We'll watch that and have the fighters and kind of go behind the scenes. So really getting behind the scenes on that. So that's going to be something that's going to be on our Patreon channel. So we will let you guys know more about that, but thank you guys so much. And again, big shout out to VFT, and go support King of New York, September 24th. It's going to be a big event, man.
Yep. I believe it's going to be the biggest tournament that month for sure, I believe.
Right.
All right. This has been 3 years.
This is crazy.
So next week, we start episode 1 of year 4.
That's
This
right.
has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys next week. Thank you so much. Happy 3 years, guys.